I know a lot of people talk about, I'm fearless, I'm fearless. I'm not fearless. I get scared as fuck. Okay. But I do say that I am courageous. I'm going to do it anyway, even though I'm scared. And then you start to realize, wow, I do have this body of work. I've won these awards. I've exceeded in sales. I brought in celebrity clients. So then we start to look at what an expert looks like for them, not based on what it is necessarily in their industry, but what does an expert look like to you? The confidence part can prevent people from going all the way to the finish line. But once they get confident, once they understand what their message is, that's another thing too. Or just feeling like, oh, well, my message is this today. My message is apples today. Oh, tomorrow it's kiwi. And then on Friday it's, oh, we need to eat grapes, right? You gotta pick one. Hey, this is Taiia Smart Young, your favorite book coach, story strategist, and writing consultant. And you are listening to Dreams and Drive.
Hey Dream Drivers, it's Raina here, and I've got something exciting to share with y'all today. You know, we're always on a hunt for that perfect refreshment, and let me tell you, Starry Lemon Lime Soda hits different. There's something about that crisp, clear burst of lemon lime flavor that just brings the good vibes and great taste every time. And the best part, it's caffeine free, so you can enjoy it anytime, anywhere without the jitters. Whether you're catching up with friends, taking a moment for yourself, or just need a refreshing pick-me-up, a crisp, cold sip of Starry is like a little burst of ah in every can. It's the perfect companion for all those moments that make life sweet. So what are you waiting for? It's time to see other sodas. Go find Starry now in stores or online and experience that refreshingly crisp taste for yourself. Stay refreshed, stay dreaming, and let's get into this episode. Hey Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 403 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. Today on this inspiring episode, we're going to be talking to Taiia Smart Young, who is a dynamic book coach, writing consultant, and story strategist. And she teaches coaches, consultants, speakers, and entrepreneurs how to use their expertise and experiences to write and self-publish brand-building, sticky stories that make bank. And on this episode, Taiia is going to share her journey of moving from neutral to thriving and really emphasizes the importance of support, staying attuned to trends in the industry, and how to build a strong personal brand along the way. We're going to be discussing the evolution of her brand, the lessons she's learned from setbacks, and how rejection can be a powerful setup for new opportunities. You're going to discover why Taiia believes desire alone isn't always enough, and what prompted her to fully invest in herself and embrace entrepreneurship full time. There's so much that Taiia highlights about the role of having someone who believes in you along your dream driving journey and why that's important. We're going to be talking about the necessity of really niching down and the process of uncovering what truly sets you apart. So whether you're navigating your own career path or seeking inspiration to chase your dreams, this episode is for you guys. If you are not already following us on social media, please make sure that you are following Dreams and Drive across the board, especially on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you want to join our email newsletter, The Keys, and get weekly email updates right in your inbox, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. All right, let's hear from Taiia.
Hey, Raina. I'm good. I'm so excited. It's been overdue.
I am so excited to have you on the show. It's funny because I was like, how did we first connect? And I don't actually remember, but I do have this core memory of I remember where I was. I think I was at my old job and I used to work in Edison, New Jersey. And I was driving to a Walmart after work. I remember we had a conversation on the phone about something, and I can't remember, but I just remember I was driving to Walmart. And like I just felt like I had this epiphany moment. But I don't remember anything else about why we were talking on the phone, why we
How we got
connected,
on the phone,
how we got
right?
on the phone. I don't remember.
I
Do
feel like
you?
it went from, so I don't remember all of the details, but I feel like it came from social media. Like it started on social media. I think we ended up exchanging emails and then phone numbers, and then that phone call happened, and everything else I don't remember.
Me, I guess it doesn't matter, right? But we're here now, and that's
Right.
what matters. And I'm excited to have you in the dream driving front seat with me. And I want our listeners, I actually going to read this verbatim because I just think it's so powerful. When you first pitched the show, this is what you said, right? You said, my journey embodies the essence of dream driving, navigating life's obstacles with creativity and resilience to build a successful career on my own terms. I've transformed personal setbacks into professional triumph. And I think that's so important because so many of us are in this state of life where we're going through things. We have these big dreams. We want to accomplish things, but we just feel like life keeps getting in the way. So, on today's episode, we're going to dive into some things in your life and how you were able to really move past them and still keep along the dream driving journey. But first, Taiia, I asked our guest this, and you definitely got to get asked the same question. I want to go back to the young T, right? What was inspiring you as a child? Like, what was the dream for you back then? But actually, let's start with what was inspiring you, and then we'll go into what was the dream.
Okay, so first of all, back then it was TT, right? I got older and I dropped the other T. So it was TT back then. And believe it or not, I've always wanted to be a writer since my childhood. And I told my mother that when I was like in the fifth grade. So I was always into storytelling, always into reading, always into creating. I wasn't really good at drawing, but I knew I, I now I know it was storyboarding, but back then it was, oh, I'm just gonna add some pictures to go along with my stories. So that's really where a lot of even what I do today creatively comes from. Is like that young girl, young Titi, she was thinking of stories and characters and trying to create these worlds.
And how did that manifest for you as a young adult, right? Graduated from college, out into the real world. Was it easy? Was that still the dream for you in those first, years of your career?
It was absolutely my dream, but the thing that was frustrating for me in college was people downplayed or they disrespected my major, right? Do not play in my, like for all my communications majors out there, don't let these people play in your face, right? Because there's so much flexibility in what I was taught to do. So I worked for the radio station at my school, right? I wrote for the publications at my school. I did all kinds of presentations. So it was like I had all of this exposure to writing and publishing and creating. Even one of my favorite projects from college was doing like this commercial. And so it's just there's so much that you can do as a communications professional, from writing to producing to creating to publishing, etc. And so for me, I had to work really hard not to let people get in my head, because the thing was, they would say, oh, what are you going to do with that? How are you going to make
Mm.
money? You can't make money with that degree, right? Everybody else had a very clear path, like, oh, I'm going after college, I'm going to law school or I'm going to medical school. And so it was like, what are you going to do? And so was it easy? No. The first job I took was not even in my field, but I took it to make coins. Like you like you got student loans that's about to kick
Yeah.
in a couple months. So like let's get the money rolling in. That's what I was thinking about.
Oh, I think that's an important lesson. I know for me, like I had a sociology degree, and my parents to this day, they're like, What did you do at Princeton?" Right? I'm like, sociology, it makes a little bit of sense. My grandmother swore I was gonna be a social worker. She was so devastated. I'm just like, listen, Granny, that's not what's going on here. But I think it's that lesson of like you knew that you wanted something and you weren't gonna let other people talk you out of it.
Right.
Talk to me about this job at Essence, because for you, that was a pivotal point in your career, right? And it came pretty early on. How do you think that working at Essence really set you up for all that you did later?
Essence was such a training ground for me. So first of all, I had my first job that was working for the federal government, and that was to pay the bills. But I really had my eye on media, and I never took my eye off of that. I think you can get really comfortable and be like, okay, well, I got this great job with these great benefits, and I'm just going to rock out here. But my thing was, this is just a means to an end. I'm paying bills here. The job at Essence was my dream job, and I had an internship there, so I had an in. It wasn't like I was coming to them kind of cold turkey. I was thirsty when they said, well, what do you want to do after? What do you want to do after?
Hire me. That's what I wanted
Right.
to do.
I
That's
was
what I want
like,
to do.
I want to work here. That's what I want to do. Duh. And so when I got that job, when I got that opportunity just to even interview, I was like, oh, I got to make this happen. And it was so pivotal to my career. Even now, I think about the things that I learned at Essence were really foundational and fundamental to how I write, how I think to this very day.
Okay, that is it's so important, right? And I think those first steps along our journey help lay the path. So, we're driving along with you. I'm gonna let you get in the driver's seat, right? Where are we going next, and what is going on in Tia's life right now? Like, what are you trying to figure out as you're like this mid-career professional and you're just trying to figure out how do you make these media dreams true and how do you make these writing dreams come true?
Growing from Essence, one of the biggest things that I had to do was to leave Essence, right? People were like, wait, why would you leave? That's your dream job. But I always want people to think of it as a stepping stone. So it's like when you go to middle school and you go to high school and you go to college, you stay there for certain periods to get certain skills so you can go to the next level. So for me, going to the next level after Essence was like, okay, I need to be in another environment where I'm going to learn, whether that is magazines or digital. And remember, there was a time when everything was a .com and it was hot. And so I was like, oh, the new thing, I'm going to try it. And I think that's really important to think about too, like taking a calculated risk, like go ahead, like be the person who's going to try this, try the new job, try the new career, try the new technology piece, whatever it is, so that you can grow. So mid-career for me, I would say was when I was at Juicy, which was at the time a startup magazine. It lasted for
With
5 years.
Paula, right? Was that with
Yep,
Paula?
absolutely with
It's
Paula.
funny
Yep.
because I met Paula too, and I can't remember how I met Paula. It was like I remember. It's just so funny how like
So
everyone
now
kind of
it's coming back.
intersects.
Maybe it was through Juicy that we met. Maybe
Long
that
story
could
short,
be
I
it.
know
That could be the
Paula, so maybe
connection.
that was
Yes.
maybe
Yes.
that was the connection.
So we created Juicy together. We launched it together, and that was one of the best probably periods of my career because it was a point where you just had an idea and then you were able to see it come to fruition in the magazine. So there was every fingerprint that was every our fingerprints were all up and through the magazine, the social media, the digital piece to it. So it was like that was just a really good chance for me to create on a larger level and grow and see what's possible and make mistakes too, because everything that we tried didn't always work.
Do you remember like when you were in the thrust of growing the brand, the Juicy magazine, which if you guys don't know, Google it. It was an iconic magazine in its days, right? What were some of the biggest things that you were learning about what it takes to really grow? Because a lot of us are in these like neutral stages where we're trying to put something into motion. What were you realizing at this point is like the difference between if you're gonna make it or you're not gonna make it?
Oh, I one of the biggest things is how much support you have of if you're working for a company, how much support the company is going to give you. And we were at a time where magazines weren't the hot thing. So we were really struggling to make sure that the company supported us, but also we were competing against social media. At the time, Instagram was just popping off. Twitter had already existed. And so we were trying to find out how we could be a companion to what was going on social media. Because you didn't necessarily have to wait for a magazine to see what was going on with your favorite celebrities. All you had to do was go to their Instagram page. All you had to do to see what they were talking about was go to their Twitter page. And so I think really understanding what kind of support you have internally and externally, that's really vital to just understanding what's going to happen with your baby, your project, and also paying attention to the trends in the industry, right? We knew that we were launching a magazine at a time where magazines were folding left and right, magazines that had been around for a long time. So we didn't go into it with the mindset of, "Ooh, this could end any day now." We knew that was a possibility, but we came into it with an abundance mindset. We're like, well, while we're here, we are going to rock out. We're going to do everything that we said we want to do. We're going to experiment. We're going to get people on the cover. We're going to do photo shoots. We're not going to do photo shoots. We're going to ask people for images. We're going to like it just everything that we could think of, we were doing.
How were you looking at who you were as a personal brand? Although you were building your own business and really making your mark in the media world, how were you building your own personal expertise during this time as well?
I would say it was a mixture of two things. One, at first, I wasn't even thinking about myself as a personal brand. And I think that can be a bit of a mistake. I think we all should have some level of personal branding because once your job goes away or a magazine folds or a company folds, who are you outside of that title? who are you outside of the company, right? We get really attached to these titles and companies, and then they can say, okay, well, we don't have any budget for you, and this is gone. And I've been through that 3 times. So one of the biggest things to think about is, I'm sorry, I was going to say something really important, and I forgot the question midway. Repeat the question for me one more time.
The question was how are you thinking about yourself as a personal brand during this
Ah,
time? And you said you
yes.
were and you weren't.
I was and I wasn't. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was me not thinking about myself. Then when I did start to think about myself as a personal brand, I started to think about myself as a speaker because I was getting invited to speak at different events. So it could be someone's workshop, it could be a church event. I was getting a lot of stuff for schools, especially middle schools and high schools and a couple of colleges here in New York City. And so I started to think of myself like, oh yeah, maybe that's the path that I want to go on. And truth be told, it is part of what I do now, but it's not the sole part of what I do now.
Hey, Dream Drivers, if you're like me, you know the struggle of dealing with a wild child who just won't keep their diaper on. That's why I'm excited to share my favorite Pampers Cruisers 360, the ultimate baby-proof diaper for your little explorer. Pampers Cruisers 360 features a 360-degree stretchy waistband instead of the usual tabs. This unique design helps prevent your baby from removing their diaper, which means no more unexpected messes. And trust me, this is a game changer. One of the best parts, Pampers Cruisers 360 offers up to 100% leak-proof protection with a gap-free fit no matter how your baby moves. It's super easy to remove too. Just rip the sides, roll it up with a disposal tape on the back, and you're good to go. Try Pampers Cruisers 360 with the new Pampers Free and Gentle wipes for healthy baby skin. They're made from 100% plant-based cloth that grips the mess, with Free and Gentle mess meets its match. Add Pampers Cruisers 360 and Free and Gentle wipes to your cart or pick them up at your local grocery or big box store. Say goodbye to messes and hello to more fun with Pampers. Remember, for trusted protection, trust Pampers, the #1 pediatrician recommended brand. This episode of Dreams and Drive is brought to you by McDonald's. Fashion loves Black style, but Black designers don't always get their shine. That's why McDonald's has partnered with 5 rising Black designers and 5 industry insiders to help change more than clothes. The designers have hit culture's biggest red carpets and runways and connected with fashion industry insiders for ongoing career-changing mentorships, all while building their brands and bringing along fans like you. Plus, there's so much more to come. Want to see what's happening with these designers on the come up? Follow their journey on Instagram at We Are Golden. This is what you do when your love of the sneaker game has you chasing all the limited editions, the classics, and the real ones. You go to eBay, score all your once-in-a-blue moons, and check off your wish list of hard-to-finds. So when those fresh sneakers deserve a hoodie just as real, go for authentic streetwear with expert-verified accessories to match, like timeless watches, vintage and designer bags, and more jewelry than you can wear at once. Yeah, eBay. It's the place for new, pre-loved vintage, and rare fashion. eBay. Things people love. Let's talk to us about the moment that you had a book deal, right? That you thought was going to go through, and I won't tell the story. I'll let you tell the story because I think there's so much for us to learn about how you can really turn a setback into a setup for a new pivot along the journey. So talk to us about this book deal that didn't go how you expected.
Yeah, my friends and I, we both grew up as shy girls, and we wanted to write this teen empowerment book to show girls that they could still be shy, but still learn how to be make themselves known in a room and just give them the tools to succeed. And so what happened was we wrote this proposal, we rewrote the proposal, we had an editor that was interested, and then the deal just didn't go anywhere. It was told to us basically that the book wasn't marketable. Like they didn't really know how to position it. And so, yeah, so that was heartbreaking, but that's part of the business, right? That's part of, if you might have a vision and you might have a clear idea on how to get this into the marketplace, but someone else who's now charged with hundreds of other books, if they don't see the idea, if they don't see like, oh, this is the way we're going to tackle this, then they'll pass on, and they do have a clear idea and vision on how to approach marketing that particular book. So while it was heartbreaking, it also was a catalyst for me to get into self-publishing, which I originally had no interest in doing.
Why do you remember why you didn't have that original interest?
Because at the time I was of the mindset that, oh, if I don't publish traditionally, then it's not really real. And that came from, I think, back in those days. So we're going back to like 2015, 2014, 2013. Self-publishing isn't what it is now. We have so many more tools to make you look like you have the weight of a big publisher behind you. You can hire your own editor. You can hire your own stylist and photographer for your cover and to make
And
yourself
it
look
doesn't cost as much money as it probably did before, right? Or is it?
right, right. I mean, there are different pieces to invest in, and I always think that the biggest piece you're going to invest in is your editor and
Okay.
or your book coach, right? But there's the tools that are here available now. Like when I first published my book in 2015, the minimum order that I could make was 1,000 books.
Ooh.
Right. And that's a lot. And you need to be able to figure out, how am I going to sell these 1,000 books? Now I can go to one of my vendors and I can print 10 books if I want to. Right. And I can have it in 48 hours, or I can go to Amazon and print a short print run of books. So there's a lot of difference between back then and now. And it wasn't as, I would say that people are way more savvier. The tools allow them to really look great on paper and on the shelf. And back then you had a lot of people that were just passionate about writing and passionate about producing. And now you see people who are a lot more, they hire the book coach or the editor, and they get the pieces together to look like this is going to be a book that's worth purchasing, because they're trying to sell their brand. They have a brand, they're a therapist, they're a love coach, they are a doctor, they specialize in social media strategy. They want to look like they are the professional that they are, the expert that they are.
I have a quick question. This might derail the conversation a little bit. Do you feel like, how do you know when it's the right time to write a book? And I say that because I've had lots of people on the show be like, Brandon, you need to write a book, right? You have all these interviews. You could do a journal. You could have like a guided journal with people's stories. And I'm just like, I don't know. Like, when you're working with people, how do you know? How do you know when someone's ready? Or should it just be a desire you have that you're making real?
I don't think desire is enough. I think because you can have a desire to say, oh, I want to write a book, but you don't have any specific brand or message or even a framework of how you help people make a transformation. So in your case, you've talked to hundreds of
I
entrepreneurs.
know.
You've talked to so many experts. And because your podcast is called Dreams and Drive, you could write a book called Dreams and Drive with a nice subtitle that explains to you what we're about to find out. And it could be like these collection of, it could be an anthology of stories from people from these different industries and how they were able to, in effect, get their dreams together and put them in drive, right? The obstacles that they were faced with that prevented them or almost prevented them for making this a successful event for them. So I think it's a couple of things. Passion is not enough. I think if you have an expertise and you want to share something with an audience, that's a great indicator. If you have a way of getting people success, like, oh, I'm a fitness coach and I've worked with hundreds of clients to get them to not only lose weight, but also keep it off for X amount of years. Like, you have stories to tell. I think there's a couple of different ways to look at it. It's not just one answer, and passion is definitely never enough.
I love that you say that, because I think that's what people need to realize. Like, passion is not always enough. But let's talk about the passion that was enough for you and helped drive you into this new world of entrepreneurship, right? Because I know you were kind of at one point like juggling a 9 to 5, you had layoffs, right?
Mhm.
What was the point for you where you were like, I'm going to 100% bank on myself and invest in myself and my craft? And then what happened once you did that?
With the $5 meal deal at McDonald's, 5 hits different. 5 gets you a McDouble or McChicken and a small fry and a small drink and a 4-piece McNuggets. 5 gets you more at McDonald's. Prices and participation may vary for limited time only. You got 5 on it? With the $5 meal deal at McDonald's, you about to eat. Your choice of a tender, juicy McChicken or a hot, cheesy McDouble sandwich and a crispy 4-piece McNuggets and a small fries and a small drink for just $5.
Money.
Woo. 5 gets you more at McDonald's. Prices and participation may vary for limited time only.
Honestly, it was the last layoff. I was really looking for another job afterward and putting myself into different fields, but nothing quite fit. And I think I wasn't necessarily packaging myself in a way that it's like, I have all these transferable skills. Because one thing about coming from media is you're going to learn how to research, you're going to learn how to write, you're going to learn how to edit, you're going to learn how to produce. And so all of those skills, you have to be able to show the person sitting across from you that you're not only passionate, right, but you're confident and you have the ability to do what the job calls for. And I don't know if I've always presented myself in the best way. So
Isn't it crazy? The storyteller who sometimes has a hard time telling their own story, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like listen, the surgeon doesn't operate on themselves. They
And
gotta
they
go
shouldn't
get,
probably.
right. They have to go get another surgeon. And so speaking of that, that's when I had to go get a coach to like help me to figure out some of my pieces. So initially my first idea was I'm laid off, I'm gonna jump into it and get another job. But because I wasn't getting the opportunity, I was getting a lot of interviews, but I wasn't really feeling like, oh, this is my next move. So in the meantime, a lot of people were asking me, hey, how did you publish that book? How did you get your idea together for that book? Can you help me do this? And that's when I started to realize, okay, people are asking for help with this.
What's that book? Just for the reference. Because I know the book,
Sure.
but what's the book?
Sure. The book is a book for teen girls called Famous: How to Be the Star of Your Show, a teen girl's guide to embracing her fabulous self, which I wrote and published in 2015, and I still sell to this day. I sell those books in bulk to schools and youth organizations and churches. And so I think that's the power too of realizing that you have something, you have this story to tell, and you don't want it to just be, oh, I'm promoting it for this first 3 months. No, that's one of the beauty. That's the beauty too, I think, about self-publishing and being in charge of your product, is that you're always trying to make yourself relevant and put yourself into what's going on. So say, for instance, if there's something happening with teen girls, I can now pitch someone and say, hey, my book covers teen empowerment. It covers what to wear on an interview. It covers mentorship. And now I found a way inside of the conversation, and it doesn't matter that my book was published in 2015.
Okay, I love that. So let's go back. So people were asking, how did you publish that book? How did you get this? And you're starting to realize, this might be something I could do, right?
Yes, I was realizing like there's opportunity here, but there were so many gaps in my knowledge because coming from just the editorial side, didn't really know about the business side or how much to charge someone. So in the very beginning, I was severely undercharging because I was like, oh, well, I'm new to this. Well, when I got a coach, she was like, okay, well, yeah, the reason why you're burning out is because you're undercharging. You got all these clients, they're getting all of this from you. And guess what? You're about to shut everything down just because you're frustrated and you're angry and you don't know what to do. So one of the things is I had to invest in this coach, and she gave me the roadmap to be like, yeah, we're going to change prices. We're going to change what you offer. People are going to learn how to do this for themselves, because I was doing it all. I was helping them to create their cover. I was doing the editing. I was doing the interior formatting. What I now know is it's a premium done for you service. I was doing all of that for less than $2,000. Yeah.
End to end per month?
End to end, not 2,000 per month. That was 2,000 for the entire package.
And you live in New York?
I live in one of the most expensive cities in the world, right? So that's why that was crazy. But you don't know what you don't know until
and sometimes you kind of have to have those, go through those moments to get out on the other side, right? Because like now you know how to navigate all of that and what you'll never do again, right?
Absolutely. I could never do that again. And realizing that I was offering them so much. So I'm editing your entire book. I'm giving you cover direction. I'm giving you vendors. I'm telling you all, I'm doing the work for you. And that's a premium price. So now if you want that, you have to pay. There's a different package for that. But now I'll teach you how to do it inside of my group coaching programs or my VIP days. Like I'll teach you how to do it, but we cannot exhaust me anymore.
What were you learning about what it really takes to grow a business? And did you ever have a plan B? Like, did you ever say, if this doesn't work out, I'll go back to corporate, I'll, do something else?
Yeah, I didn't necessarily have a plan B, but I always knew that I had these transferable skills and I have even more skills now that I've been doing it on my own. Had to learn how to hire a virtual assistant, had to learn how to create packages and create offers and launch, write marketing emails. So there's so much more that I've learned and been able to do in the process. And of course, anytime with any entrepreneur, when the stuff hits the fan, you just get exhausted and you're just like, let me go see who's hiring, who is going to give me six figures to do XYZ. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because if you're blessed to just be able to just go in one way up, that's great. But this thing is really like a roller coaster. You can have very high highs and very severe lows, and you have to be able to manage both.
Where did self-belief come into this along your entrepreneurial journey?
I think self-belief probably started for me, I would say as a child, because my mother was I always say that she was, when I talk to students about having like their favorite five and their mentors, I say you need one person that's the seer. And my mother has always been the seer. Like, and when I talk about the seer, I'm meaning the person who sees more for you than you see for yourself. Right. So my mother has always been that person. Like she didn't say when I said to her, oh, I want to be a writer. She didn't say, well, there's nobody we know that are writers. And how are you going to make money with that? She was like, okay, well, what I know is writers need to be able to read. They need to be able to have a typewriter. They need a computer. Like I started on the typewriter, right? That's how vintage I am. I started on a typewriter.
Girl, say that.
I've always had a computer, right? My mother always made sure that I had the technology to pursue writing. And so I think that self-belief started there. And then in college, when people were like, oh, well, what are you going to do after college? How are you going to make money? I had to really be sure of myself and that I could do this. And media back then, especially in the 90s, was super competitive. We have all these magazines, we had all these places to be, we had all the different kinds of internships, and that doesn't exist as much anymore. So back then, it was a really good training ground for how to be sure of yourself, even when you were scared. Right. It's more so just about being courageous, not really. I know a lot of people talk about, I'm fearless, I'm fearless. I'm not fearless. I get scared as fuck. Okay. But I do say that I am courageous. I'm going to do it anyway, even though I'm scared, even though I don't know what the outcome is going to be.
Because I can imagine just even along, this entrepreneurial journey where you're helping other people put their dreams into motion. Do you ever feel like there's like their success is riding your success is riding on their success? Like what if they publish a book and it flops? Like is that a reflection of you? Like no, right? It's not, but like for your client it might be, and they might, how do you deal with that part of it when you know that someone's investing in you to help them put something into motion and it might not always pan out how the client wants?
Oh, people don't always listen to you. You can give them the best advice, right? And it's kind of like, I'm a mother. My son is 23, and it's like I've given him all the tools to be a successful young adult, right? I'm in a different role now. I'm in an advisory role. And so I've told him what to do when he was a child. Now that he's a young adult, he has the opportunity to execute on what he's learned. Same thing with my clients. We can have these coaching calls and I can lay out the blueprint. I can tell you what to do. Here's the template. But if you decide you want to deviate from that template, I can't take responsibility if you deviated and now you've crashed and burned, right? I want you to be successful. I want you to do everything you set out to do. It's like, oh, I want to use my book for speaking, or I want to turn my book into a workshop. We are going to do that. But I can't take on the pressure of, wow, everything is riding on me. I have to be secure enough to know that we had these great coaching sessions, whether it was a VIP day that lasted for 6 hours, or it was 6 months we were working together inside of my coaching program. I've given you what you need, all the tools, and now you have to execute. And sometimes people don't execute, right?
And that's not on you.
And that's not on me, because they come in with passion, and it's like, oh, but I didn't realize it was going to be this difficult, or I didn't realize that I was going to really have to put aside this level of time to produce it, or I don't want to do all these things for myself. Like we love a finished product, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to be Beyonce until it's time to go to rehearsal. Okay, that's just it.
I was gonna say, from your experience working with so many clients, what have you noticed is I guess, the characteristic between a standout client, right? Someone who succeeds and then someone who doesn't. I know you said execution, but is there something else that you often see in like what kind of helps get people to the next level as well?
Yeah, I think I talk a lot about being an expert, and you will be surprised at how many people have so many degrees behind their name. They've done this with this Grammy winning person, and they've done this with this award winning person, and they have so many receipts, but they still are not comfortable calling themselves an expert, because maybe in their head they have this, oh, this is what an expert looks like, or this is what an expert has achieved. But you are an expert. If you've been doing this for 5 years, you have way more expertise, let's say, in finance than I do, because I don't know, I've never been a financial expert, right? So we have to understand and realize that you can look at your expertise in totality. So I always have my clients in one of my programs do like this inventory of career, volunteering, right? And then start to put down all of these highlights, and then you start to realize, wow, I do have this body of work. I've won these awards. I've exceeded in sales. I brought in celebrity clients. So then we start to look at what an expert looks like for them, not based on what it is necessarily in their industry, but what does an expert look like to you? And so that's really big in terms of like just figuring that out. And so I think sometimes the confidence part can prevent people from going all the way to the finish line. But once they get confident, once they understand what their message is, that's another thing too. Like not being confident in their message, or just feeling like, oh, well, my message is this today. My message is apples today. It's so good to eat apples. Oh, tomorrow it's kiwi. And then on Friday it's, oh, we need to eat grapes, right? You got to pick one.
You
Like,
are speaking to me right now. This is the same thing that I've been working through with my business coach, and it's just like he's like, Raina, you're good at a lot of things, but you got to zero in on like what you want to be known for, what you actually like, because people will. I got this quote. I remember someone told me like, you'll always be what people need you to be for them, right? But what do you want to be for people? And like that's up to me to define. So that's something like listeners, if you listen to it, like we all working through it. It's something that I think is probably the thing that's holding me back from getting to the next level, is really defining like what's my expertise and what's my message. Because I love storytelling, I love talking to people like you, right? But like, what's the thing that I really want dreams and drive that overall message to be? And I'm struggling with that. I'm really struggling with just, I guess, committing to something and also being confident in what I'm committing to, especially because in this age of social media, everybody got a podcast now, right? Everybody's interviewing people, and it's like I've been doing this for a long time, and I kind of feel lost in the sauce a little bit. So I'm working on it. It's all a work in progress for a lot of us.
and you being vulnerable is really important, because you've now shared that with me. I had no idea that you felt that
I'm
way.
struggling, and plus being a mom now with two young kids, I feel like your whole life just changes. Just like poof, it's like trying
Yeah.
to figure out like who am I? Who am I with a business? Who am I as a person? I still
Hmm.
want to show up professionally, but it just seems like I don't have the time, I don't have the energy. There's just so many different things that at this stage of the dream for me, I'm just trying to like figure it all out and put it into motion.
I think the biggest thing for you, and even for myself, when I was in the same situation of thinking through what I wanted to do, picking something is really important. You can have your primary and your secondary. So there's so many people who are podcasting, like right now, you're right. Everybody has a podcast now, right? Before we got on this call, I was working through my notes for a limited series podcast that I want to do for clients and extending it to others. But it's the reason why we niche down is so we can know exactly who we're talking to and what you want to say to them, because everybody might not need your message, but now that you have two young kids, right, you're different. So you can show up in a way where it's like, hey, I'm talking to women in this age bracket who may be single moms, they may be married moms, they just be maybe moms of small children. And so
Yeah.
they're going to find you and connect with you because they're going to see themselves in you, right? So when I say that I'm vintage, it's also like, I'm not saying like, I don't want to work with the millennials. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, listen, sis, I'm 51, right?
51 where, first of all? First of all, 51 where? But okay.
That's sweet. My mom just turned 70 and people were like, 70? She doesn't look 70. So I want to be able to help a very specific person, client, right? And a lot of times, because I'm 51, that's an asset. It's not a liability to my clients because they feel like, oh, she's been through some things. She gets me, she understands, right? And so I don't take that lightly. That's something that I can use inside of my brand story. That's something that I can use inside of the coaching calls, because I've had people who get on the Zoom with me and assume I'm way younger, and then they find out like, wait, you have a son that's 23? Like, oh, so you know what it's like to have a small kid running around. And I can absolutely, right? So when I do have clients who are moms of small children and they're like, oh, I need to put my kids to bed, I'm like, they can be up, because this is real life. And this is what happens when you are a mother, right? You need to breastfeed. Go ahead and breastfeed while we're on the call.
And it's also, I think when you talk about like your experience, like you've seen communications in all its different evolved states, right? Like from just having magazines to digital to now like people are trying to do a hybrid of the both to now realizing like books will never go out of style. I was reading something like although people are doing like a lot of like audio books now, like people still love like that handheld knowledge, right? And being able to physically flip through a book and sell and not sell knowledge, but just to share knowledge in that way. So it's just like you just want vintage with experience, like and I don't fly in front of that, right? Because you still
Well,
are
thank
still
you.
are. So as we wind down, Taiia, I would love to ask you like what's next, right? You are doing so much with clients in the book publishing industry. You are really helping people tell their stories. When you think about like if you're let's say you're in the drive, you're in your front seat, right? And you're looking into the windshield, like what's in front of you right now?
Oh, the biggest thing that's in front of me is growing my workshops. So, in addition to being a book coach, I'm also a writing consultant. So, one of the things that I do is I work with students, right? I have a program called Rock Your College Essay that my son helped me to create because he felt like when he was in high school, nobody was helping him with the college essay. And so, I want to be able to grow that. I want to work with districts. I'm right now, I've been pitching to school and getting my reps in that way and creating like, oh, okay, I have this number of schools and clientele, but it'd be great to be able to be like, oh, the district, I'm signing a contract with the district. I got these 5 or 6 schools under my belt and I can just go and present, because for a lot of schools, it's like, oh, I don't have the money to pay you to do that. And so that's one of the big things. And then after that, I want to go to the colleges. I want to talk to college students about like creating that personal brand, right? What are the messages that you're putting out there? Because listen, every time I hired somebody, I went to their social media to look at what they were doing, what they were interested in. And so I feel like you have an opportunity with social media to build a personal brand. I know for some people that can be a turnoff or it can be scary, but believe it or not, people, you are a brand, whether you want to be or not.
Yep.
I say, and I also say that everyone is an author. You're telling your story every time you get up, from the jacket that you choose that you want to wear, to the products that you purchase, to the way your hair is. You're telling a story about yourself. So why not package it in a way that is working for you?
You got to. And what I hear too when you say that is like when you niche down, you also can niche down your income stream possibilities. And I say that because, when we think about getting clients, we're just thinking about trying to get everyday people, but no, you can get school district money, you can
Yeah,
get
yeah,
college money, or
college,
college, like there's so
corporation.
many there's so many different pockets of industries that I think a lot of us aren't really looking into because we're not like really niching down. But think about, like, there's different ways to get money and there's different revenue streams that are out here, right? I always tell people this. During the pandemic and I was pregnant, I wasn't working full time, but I had this little side gig. And it was so funny. I did email marketing for a bus company in Atlanta virtually. But think about it, right? Like a company that sells buses. Like everybody still needs email marketing, and they were huge. Like they were a huge, like they sold a lot of buses. And it
Yes.
was just like they needed someone to do the email marketing. And like one of my former bosses connected me. But that was before there was like the whole chip shortage and then like cars, nobody was buying cars. But in the beginning of the pandemic, like that was my little hustle. So like there's so many different ways to kind of take your transferable skills and find a pocket or a lane for you. And that's why I love hearing your story, because I think it's just a testament of like you can zero in on your lane and be successful and find what works for you and like find your own unique way to show up here.
Absolutely. I believe in that wholeheartedly because experience.
Right? Like you had the big media job, you have like, writing for this person, but like you were able to create something based upon all those unique skill sets that you were learning throughout and kind of adding onto your resume throughout your career. So that's just an inspiration to me. I'm year 33 into this life, right? But knowing that there's so much more out there
Yes.
for me, and like just my little hiccups right now, the kids being small, it's just a phase. They won't be small forever. And like, I'm just encouraged hearing you share your story. So
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome. And you should know that you can decide that I want to scale back or do something differently in a way that makes sense for what your schedule is now, because they won't
Yeah.
be small forever. How old are they again?
Axel just turned 4 and Diesel just turned 1. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So they're not going to be 4 and 1 forever. Right.
Yeah.
And Axel is going to be so much more of a help to his brother, right? As they both get
I don't
older.
know. He been trying to kill him every time. I'm like one second he's trying to help him, next minute he's dragging him across the floor. So I hope so.
I think that is just sibling rivalry, like normal
Yeah. And
sibling.
Diesel just loves it. He's just like clapping as he's getting dragged
Yes,
by his brother. So he don't
because
even
his
know.
big brother is his hero, right? But you have to remember that you can change, you can scale back. Like if let's say if you were doing podcasts every day, you're like, oh, I'm shooting up. You can decide, you know what? Every day is not working. It will be
Yeah.
2 days or it will be one day, and I will batch record 3 podcasts in a day. You just got to make it. We have to realize that it becomes a custom fit because I don't think once you become a mom, you can go at the same speed without support. Even sometimes with support, you have to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? And maybe I can't travel as much. So it's all about what works for your life and not worrying about what anybody else said. Well, when I had 2 kids, when you had 2 kids, it was
I
1974.
still like I still like to sleep at night. Like I'm not that all nighter type of mom. I'm an all night and go to bed. Okay. So it's just I appreciate that. I receive it, and I just hope whoever's listening who
Yeah.
might be in that same part of their journey, that like you got this and it's okay. Like it's okay if you have to do what you got to do. But Taiia, can you tell our listeners where they can tune in more to hear more about you, where they can book a session with you and learn more about how you can help them create and build a story that launches to the I'm over here putting a tagline on your tagline. You say what you got to say.
Sure. Absolutely. So Instagram and LinkedIn are my preferred social media platforms. And you can reach me at Taiia Smart Young. So that's TAIIA Smart Young on LinkedIn and Instagram. And for my website, it's the same thing, taiiasmartyoung.com. And when you go there, there'll be a button for you to click to contact me, and you can schedule a absolutely complimentary creative clarity call, and we can figure out how to work together. What does that mean? Does that mean we're working together for 3 months, for 6 months, for 6 hours? There's different possibilities and opportunities depending on what you need to get accomplished and how fast you need to get it accomplished, right? And even what your budget is. So I look forward to talking to people about this story. I look forward to get that message out of the mess.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your dream driving journey today. And I hope our listeners have enjoyed it as much as I have.
I've enjoyed it myself. Thank you.
All right, so that's the wrap for this episode of Dreams and Drive. I hope you enjoyed our guest's dream driving journey as well as listening to their keys to success. If you love this episode, you know what to do. Please make sure that you are following us. We are at Dreams and Drive across social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So make sure you're sharing this episode, posting it to your Instagram stories, texting it to a friend, sharing on LinkedIn, wherever you are or online. Just pay this forward and share this with somebody. We really appreciate it. And all the sharing that you do helps us grow our community. If you want to join our email newsletter, The Keys, and get weekly updates delivered to your inbox, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. And lastly, if you know somebody who would be great for this show, or if you are someone who would be great for this show, please go to dreamsanddrive.com/pitch. I'm always accepting new guests. I'm always accepting new pitches. So I love to see those pitch requests coming in. Keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in the next episode. Bye, guys.